G'day friends, welcome to today's YouTube video. My name is James, welcome back to my channel. Welcome if you're new as well. I've got 5 journals, well technically 1 journal, but 5 signatures of 1 journal to flip today. So grab yourselves a drink, ladies, and strap yourself in. I've got a lot of chatting to do and not a lot of time to do it. I mean, I could take all day if I wanted to, but I know some of these longer videos tend to be feature film length, so I'm going to try and who knows? I'm going to try something. I'm just going to try and enjoy myself. How about that? I'm going to go through each of these signatures. Technically, they make up one big journal, but I haven't bound mine together. This is the 3rd Virtual Voyage. I'll explain a bit about that in a minute. This is the 3rd one that we've done, and most of the time I end up with bunches of signatures, and I've tried binding a few of my handmade signatures into a journal before. I wasn't really good at it. I didn't like my results. So I'm going to wait until I get better at that before I bind all these together, or maybe just try and find someone who can bind them together for me. I'd like to make this like its own hardcover journal, and it's quite bulky, but this is why I work in the 5 signatures, just so I'm not, if I worked in this all as one journal, by the time I got to here, I'm dealing with like a massive difference in the height of the pages, and it just gets really difficult to work on. So I use individual signatures, and that way I can use, there's 3 leaves in there, so I think it makes 10 pages, or 12 if you consider the front and the back pages as well. Yeah, I use 3 different sheets of paper, bind them together in the middle, fold them over in half. Works out fine. This is my size that I decided to go for this Virtual Voyage, which is composition notebook size. Where is my ruler? I'll give you a bit of a measurement on that, just in case you're curious. This one is 7.5 inches by kind of 9.75 inches, I think. Don't quote me on that. It's composition notebook size. I wanted to go for something a little bit smaller, mainly because as the host of the workshop, I do have to scan a lot of my stuff, and to fit it easier into the scanner, I wanted to make sure it was a size that worked well. I used to have them US letter size, but I felt like that was too big to get in the scanner. I always had to scan it back down to fit on the PDF handouts that I would make. So I thought, you know what, if I size it like this, it'll almost be the perfect size, which is, yeah, that turned out to work. So I think I'll go forward with these sizes in the future, just for scanning purposes. In real life, my preference is, did I say that properly? My preference is an A5 journal. This is actually the journal that I did a lot of the planning in. Oh, there's an itinerary. This is where I did a lot of the planning and the pre-prep for lessons that I would do, things that I was looking at for the cruise, different ideas. Some I tried, some I didn't, some got reworked. This was a whole thing that I didn't end up using, but I go through a lot of kind of prep and practice before I end up teaching the lessons, either live or pre-recorded. Either way, I usually go through everything a bunch of times before I put it together. So that is its own separate thing. I can't show you much more in there because I plan other stuff in there as well, and I don't want to accidentally give anything away for the future. But we're here to do the Virtual Voyage number 3 flip. This is the Red Curtain Cruise. So if you've never heard about Virtual Voyage, it is a workshop that I do over on Teachable. This is the 3rd one. So the first one, initially we had 4 ports of inspiration. It's kind of cruise ship themed. Just kind of harkening back to my cruise ship dancer days. If you don't know, I used to be a professional dancer, and I worked on cruise ships for, I think, about 6 years. I think so, about 6 years. So I love cruising. I love ship life. I love all that kind of nostalgia that it makes me feel when we go through the course. So everything's kind of got a ship theming to it, as like a huge umbrella over the top theme. Underneath it, we actually have these ports of inspiration that we go to. So it's all art journaling focused. We learn techniques. We learn to do like things like composition and perspective and feminine fashion and forms and faces and features, like so many different things. I'd usually choose different focuses for different lessons, but we do that all under the umbrella of this cruise theme, and our ports of inspiration are the places that we go to be inspired by, and typically they are movies, or I wouldn't even say that. The first Virtual Voyage we did 4 ports of inspiration that were based off of Alice in Wonderland, The Little Mermaid, Christian Dior's Garden, and The Wizard of Oz. So those were the 4 themes. And then the second one we did was Burtonville. That was kind of its own thing, so we explored all things Tim Burton. This one was the Red Curtain Cruise, and it was Baz Luhrmann films. So it was the Red Curtain trilogy plus the Great Gatsby. So you'll see that as we go through, it will be broken up into those 4 different ports of inspiration: freedom, beauty, truth, and love. If you know anything about Baz, you'll probably see all those themes pop up. And so it's great. It gives us a really good, a really good go at tackling references and inspiration and kind of sourcing that into our own art journaling practices. I really enjoy doing that, and I think it's a really great way to get a lot of your art journaling practice to be a lot more personalized and a lot more of a reflection of yourself, is when we're learning how to interpret themes. And so even the tagline for Virtual Voyage is themed for inspiration, open for imagination. So if you do search through the hashtags on the web, the World Wide Web, I'm just going to check that I'm in frame because I'm going to be chatting for ages. Okay, if you check the hashtags, you'll see that a lot of people interpret lessons in completely different ways, and that's super encouraged as well. I have all the things that I put in there as learning, but then the rest, it's really open. And because we do it live together, we have live theme nights where we get dressed up and do art parties together. We have live on the Lido deck parties, which are a little more informal. We do so much. We play games and everything. It's super fun. But what's really great is that there's a lot of sharing that goes on during the live components, and so we see how everyone interprets different things different ways, which is just great in general to see in the community, because sometimes, especially when I'm learning, like I'm more of the type of person to take the lesson and apply it to the things that I like. And that's where I really see a lot of value in art journaling being more of a reflection of yourself, that kind of imagination encyclopedia that I like to call it sometimes. I want all of this to kind of reflect not my vision really, but I don't know, just personal parts of me. So I will reinterpret things that way. Some people might reinterpret them with different things. So we might learn a lesson on features and faces or fashion for feminine forms. And then some people will do Satine from Moulin Rouge, and then other people might do Juliet from Romeo and Juliet, because these were the parts of the themes that we looked at. Or other people just might do completely different ones altogether and take some of the lessons and just apply it completely separately. So we get pretty open and pretty expressive in there. Let's talk about it as we go through it, because I'm gonna be here for years if I don't. This is a bit of a stamp set. I have a Virtual Voyage stamp set that is 6x8, and I have these little tickets, the logo for Virtual Voyage. I made it for myself. I always do this. I make these products for myself, never expecting that anyone else will want to use them. But I do stock them in my store because I have a minimum quantity that I have to purchase. So I stock them in there, and surprisingly a lot of people wanted to play along with the stamp set. So I'll show you a lot of the stamps as you see them. Mine are like mainly, the different names of the different activities that we get up to, and lots of little date markers. I have a cute little paper clip as well, but I have a little ticket just because I wanted a ticket, and I did it. I made the ticket. There it is there. So anyway, this is where we started on the 15th of February 2021, and we ended on March 1st. It was a 2-week cruise, 4 ports of inspiration: freedom, beauty, truth, and love. This is not particularly chronological because I teach, I don't know how to say this. I teach, but I also do like demos, and then beyond that, I also work out things and do practices and concept sketches for different lessons. So my journal is all over the place. I don't know if I can really point out like each theme as it starts, but I'll try and relate to which things are from where. Like this is from Moulin Rouge, which was the port of beauty. So we'll kind of look at that as well. Oh, do you know what? Before we start, I'm going to jump. See, this is how out of whack it all is. The thing that we we added to this cruise, we always like to plus it in some way, was our cruise muse. You have to forgive, mine are a bit grungy because I've been using them, which I guess is a good sign of how useful they were. We added this cruise muse. Steve, my husband, is a photographer. He did a photo shoot, and we had a muse for the cruise. Kind of like, how you have the siren on the bow of the ship? I thought of it kind of like that. But we used our friend Jess. She is a stylist, and we dressed her up, basically played Barbie dolls. And Steve did this amazing photo shoot, and we took a close-up, a mid-shot, and a full shot. And we used these as references for people who may not have known the movies or known the characters too well, or just as sketching references. You'll actually see we've looked at drawing some of these things before, used these as inspiration. In fact, this photo here that Steve took, I love this. I love the Daisy ones. I love the Satine ones. I mean, I love all of them. Look at the Juliet ones. We'll get to them in a minute, but even this pose right here became what we drew for our what's called live theme night lesson. Those are the ones where we have the party and we do the intro skit, and it's really hilarious. But so yeah, we pulled those into the course and referenced them a lot, which was really fun and a really nice way to plus it. In the original Virtual Voyage, we did that with the Neverland Mermaid photo references, which I thought was really fun. This one we wanted to be a bit more specific with the characterization. And it was just a really great way to add to the experience. I like to get a lot of Steve's photography in there because it's another creative, visual art medium. And it's really fun to see how that takes place, that kind of creative process, and how we both capture in, imagery, different parts of our expression and personality. So we try to put a lot of that in there. Anyway, let's get to the flip. This was my little working itinerary. You can see the amount of times I change lessons and shift things around. And the funniest thing is I only put this on here because this was the finalized one. This was the final one. And even then I still changed a whole bunch. So yeah, if you're ever doing a virtual voyage, I do keep a bit of wiggle room, I guess you could say, to open up the course and start changing the content, as I feel like, if certain people are gravitating towards something, or if I feel like there's an opportunity for a new lesson that might be more helpful, I kind of take it and play it by ear. I have a lot of the content pre-done, but I leave some wiggle room to change stuff up. Even some of that stuff I still change, so that's crazy. I could start a whole cruise and just have it completely different by the end. Little stickers. This background is actually a border I did. It goes over both pages. It was just a border I did for the itinerary. I drew it out and then I scanned it in. A lot of it, the whole thing takes place virtually, the workshop. So I try to bring in a lot of the theming into the workshop. And this was super fun. Baz Luhrmann, very theatrical, very over the top. Lots of opportunities to put red curtains everywhere. I felt like I was always harkening back to my performance roots. Sorry, I'm obsessively checking the camera just to make sure it's still filming. It is. Is it? Yes, it is. I taught hands. This was right at the end, so this is how really out of whack and out of sync this is, but we'll just go for it. I taught hands. I thought it was really funny. I usually avoid drawing hands at all costs, not because I can't do it, because I just don't love to do it. I sometimes just think it's not necessary. It's one of those things I'll just always omit. The hands go behind something, or anyway. This was lots of practice for a live on the Lido deck. So we do those kind of less formal get-togethers, and all our live parties are about 2 hours long. Just over a little bit, depending on how much show and tell we have. And yeah, it's super fun. We got dressed up for all of them this time, so you'll see our portraits from when we got dressed up if you haven't seen them on Instagram already. This is these little Steve's drawings. We played Pictionary. We play for prizes at the live theme nights, and yeah. So there's just some sketches from Strictly Ballroom, working out a composition and some of the lessons that I wanted to teach. I wanted to teach lines for form, and some Tina Sparkle and some of these little diamond dances. This was actually pre-Virtual Voyage. Sorry, I'm checking I'm in frame. This was pre-Virtual Voyage, where I was looking at different inspirations. I knew what we were going to be doing, and I just wanted to explore that a little bit. It's always good to kind of work with your inspiration before you start making a whole course on it, I think is a given, but sometimes you do have to actually schedule time to do that, otherwise it'll just creep up on you and suddenly you'll be like, oh, it starts in a week and I haven't seen anything. So I made sure I gave myself lots of time to practice and to dive into, pardon me, all of my inspiration first. Eduardo Garcia Benito, lots of 20s and 30s fashion illustration references as well. Erte, that was another one. Who else? Rene Guerrero, love that. All these little hands everywhere. Yeah, and these hands, this came right back to, so you can really see how early I prepped some of this stuff. Back in the Wizarding Artists Society for Art Journaling the Magic, completely different tangent. This is my new collage club, and other random things that I print out from my silhouette and cut. I've just put it in a 3-ring binder now, so I can always have access to it. I much prefer it this way than just flying around the studio. Sometimes I accidentally put holes in the stickers though, which is fine. This is where I was first doing those hands all those months ago. So I do start pretty early for these virtual voyages. In fact, the next one, Virtual Voyage 4, has all the themes and the marketing is kind of set, or the promotions, I should say, the little promo materials. And a lot of the lessons are already, they're already figured out. So, and that one's not even coming up for a couple months. So I usually get really prepped just so I can sit in it and really enjoy diving into the inspiration. because they might be all varied. Like it can be, the 2-week ones are really jam-packed. The 4-week ones I feel like they don't feel as jam-packed, but there's still a lot in there, and it goes for longer, obviously. And we have a lot of time to kind of explore different styles. I like to mix it up depending on my mood, I should say. So, you know, we definitely tried this again with the sateen, and yeah, a lot of these sketches either become, this was a base that I ended up using for the showgirls that we did in Moulin Rouge, the can-can dances. That was really fun. We did this again in Moulin Rouge. So this, when I explored it, even this became a whole idea for an illustrated editorial content piece. When I explored all of it, these explorations usually become the lessons in some way. That's why I find it hard to share sometimes, because if I show you any of this, I think you can tell that it's going to become a lesson. And I'm like, oh, I just want it to be a surprise, so I can't share any of it. But yeah, this one was pretty all over the place, so I think it was okay to share a bit of it on Instagram Live if you were there for that. These are little word scrambles. Steve did a word scramble game that was really clever. I liked that one. We're always trying to find new games to play over Zoom to play for prizes. This time the prizes were the 6x8 Virtual Voyage stamp set. I thought those were fun. And the finale prize is usually always an enrollment to any JLB creative course, which is kind of like the grand finale prize. But yeah, usually we play for like washi or stamp sets, or just like fun little things just to do while we're having a good time at our art parties. These are all just concept sketches again, exploring my themes. I wanted to go very 20s and 30s. The overall feeling of, oh, this is a little passport stamp. I like to give out, those out as kind of like a marker for when we've been to different places. A little ports of inspiration. This was strictly ballroom one. More of my stamp sets up here. When I, what was I saying? I've completely forgotten. I feel like it was important to say. Oh, yeah, I wanted to go for 20s, 30s for Great Gatsby kind of inspiration, but also the overarching kind of content that I wanted to teach skills for, because that's completely separate than the inspiration. The kind of skills that I wanted to be building on were feminine faces and feminine forms, so fashion forms almost. Lots of stylized, looking at how to draw faces, how to draw bodies. And so a lot of our lessons had to do with adding to those skills. And sometimes I'll add to that, like I'll do the straight up, like here's how we're going to draw the features, here's how we're going to do the face. This here became like, on Embarkation Day, our first live lesson together, we did a lot of, like, this is how I would draw the face. We looked at simplified features, regular features, then adding shadows, even little skills about how to flick your lashes out the other ways. All these things that I kind of use in my own practice, I like to teach up front, if it's going to be super relevant to the course. And since faces and fashion figures and forms were really what I was focusing on, that was kind of important. But yeah, so this would be like a very standard lesson. But then other ways that we did it too, like we have these, I call them poolside activities, which is typically like printable activities, and like something you would do poolside. It's kind of mindless, but you're a little bit engaged, but you're relaxed. There's no pressure. Like you're laying poolside on the Lido deck. So I would do like casting the can-can. So you would be working on conceptualizing fashion garments, but you wouldn't actually have to sketch out the whole body and the dress and everything. So a lot of the times I have to put those together beforehand just to see that, you know, is the lesson you learn in the first couple of days going to come back around? And if it does, how can we make sure that it feels like you're building on that skill and we're not just doing the same things over and over again? Which, I mean, that kind of is the part, and I know I'm speaking from the perspective of putting the course together, but honestly, that's the only perspective I can give you. I've never been a student of Virtual Voyage. You'll have to check another flip out for that. But yeah, from my perspective, it's one of the hardest things to do is to make sure that the content itself is building on itself in an interesting way or is very applicable to what we're going to do next. So sometimes when I shift lessons around, it's because of that reason. I realize when I get into it, oh, I'm missing this, so I should put that in. So what could I take out? Maybe I don't need that lesson, I'll switch it out. So that's a lot of what happens. And some lessons just never happen. This was a whole 3/4 profile view, not a 3/4 profile, I was going to teach 3/4 with Romeo and Juliet, but it happened so early on in the cruise, I felt like I'd overwhelmed everyone with a lot of information. So I actually skipped that lesson and put it in for Moulin Rouge. I moved it back a few days to give people time to settle with what we'd already learned. That's stuff that I can't really figure out until I'm actually in there and I'm seeing the responses, I'm seeing the kind of the rate that people are working through some of the lessons. So that's when I say I keep it a little flexible, just so I can make sure that the learning experience is really beneficial. You can never really cater to one specific person or one specific learner, but I do like to kind of feel the room out and find a good middle ground somewhere. But that's something I can't really do beforehand. I usually have to wait until we've started to feel that out. This was a part, oh, it's upside down. This was a part of one of our first cruise activities. Those are, cruise activities are what I referred to as the video tutorials. And yeah, we learn things in those. Usually things that are a bit heavier, like if they're longer to teach, like concepts that are a little harder, like perspective, I'll put those into cruise activities so that the video tutorials, typically in 3 parts, can do a better job of explaining that, and you can go back and rewatch that and it's all very succinct rather than the live lessons, because live lessons, when you really think about what you can achieve in 1 to 2 hours, you can get a lot in there, and believe me, we do, but some of those harder challenges like perspective, I would find it a little difficult to go too deep into live. And for myself as well, like there are some things that I'm just not super confident with teaching, and so I wouldn't really put them in a live tutorial. I would kind of, although I did do hands, so I'm not saying it's a never, but typically I'll put those in the cruise activities. So this was I think it was part 1. We were learning Frangipanis for Strictly Ballroom, if you don't know. Her name is Fran, or Frangipani della Squeegee Mop. Here are some more little stickers. I printed out my port treasures. We find these port treasures, which are typically collage sheets or downloadable content. They're just like little extras. I made these, what was it called? It's, they were the muses, the ports of inspiration, freedom, beauty, truth, and love. And then I also did 4 satines, and it was a whole page of illustrations, showgirl illustrations. So I put mine through the silhouette. I have a silhouette portrait 3, just in case you're curious. I put those through the silhouette and made them all stickers. So a lot of my stuff is stickers. And whenever it's not a sticker, I use these Tombow mono adhesive tape runners. Although I don't think these are the most, they're definitely not the most environmentally friendly. Not that that's something I typically, preach about on this channel, but it does worry me how many of these cartridges I go through. I really don't want to use glue, but I did end up getting some glue, so I kind of mix it up. Sometimes I'll use some sustainable glue. Other times, not sustainable as in it's like earth friendly or anything. Elmer's. Look at me talking about things I don't know much about. I used like Elmer's glue sticks, but other times I will use the tape runner, just pending my mood. But now that I printed things on stickers, I actually find that's a lot more of a handy way to get it in there. So these are more of my stamps. Port treasures, again, those downloadable things. Spa day usually just refers to like a day off, which are important to schedule in Virtual Voyages. We actually didn't have one. We had a spa. Oh, yeah, I guess we did. The second last day, we had one in this last Red Curtain cruise, and it was just packed jam full. We should definitely schedule more of those. They're a good buffer for people as they're learning to be able to catch up. Obviously, I know there's a ton of content in there, and I don't expect anyone to get through all of it, but I do like to get people most of the way through it. I always this is what I do 24/7, so it's understandable for me to get through it. You would hope that the instructor would get through it. But I know that most students usually keep working on it after the fact, or come back and revisit it at some points. But yeah, these were the original drawings for the passport stamps, which are just the markers of where we've been to. Yeah, and see how they turned into stickers. I made 3 different versions of the stickers, so you'll see them pop up throughout the journal. Here's one here. This is it's more of a stamp look. This one's more of a regular look, and there are there's a half-tone version as well, which I quite like. So anyway, this is my washi tape, black and white bits. It's usually a pretty good washi tape to get in there. I have the Virtual Voyage washi tapes. I've done them for the past 2 Virtual Voyages. I don't know if I'll get to do one on this one, because honestly I can't imagine which things I'm supposed to put together. It hasn't clicked with me just yet. The Burtonville ones took me a while because they didn't click with me either right away, so leave it with me. I won't promise either way, but here was a little template. I keep a lot of my working sketches as well, just in case I want to reinterpret them one day. But that was my template that I made for a Matching Mannequins poolside printable. You'll see some more of those come up. More of the little stamps here. A lot of my stamps had to do with making little text boxes or keeping the date or page numbers. And it was mostly a formatting thing, because a lot of the time when we're going through all these lessons, we have lots of spare space or blank space, and I like to fill a lot of that just to make everything feel a bit more finished. And usually I'll put writing in there, but now I've got lots of stamps that I can play with as well. So these are more of Steve's Pictionary drawings. This is a part of our cruise activities. This is part of the hair lesson. We learned how to do edges and big crazy kind of shaped silhouette hairstyles with this fun curl texture. I do a lot of this. But also the edges, I feel like, were a really good part of that lesson. A lot of the time we really stress about how hairstyles look when we're drawing them, but we don't pay a lot of attention to what the hair does to frame the face, and that, I feel like, it's a two-step kind of a situation to be able to frame the face and then to make the style as well. Sometimes your style can be like doing fine things, and you might actually not notice that it's the framing of the face that makes something look a little off. But also, off is a look. So if you want to be off, go off. Heaven knows I do sometimes. So here is one of the little examples that I didn't actually end up doing myself, but I thought would be a good one for someone to try. It was Fran, but the hairstyle was a trophy, the Pan Pacific Grand Prix trophy. If you've never seen Strictly Ballroom, this probably doesn't make any sense to you, but it's okay. Here are one of my little sketches for the Showgirls as well. This was actually not anything. This was a part of content that I call Sea Day content, which is basically like if you're at sea, you are not going to any port that day. I know that sounds pretty obvious, but so if you're at sea, typically that means the cruise puts on a lot of entertaining options for people, so that, you know, from the morning right up until the night, since you're not going to get off and go and explore any foreign port, you can actually just enjoy yourself on the ship. So for me, the Sea Day, it becomes an SEE day, more like a break from learning. It's a break from, I mean, not a total break from learning, there's still something to be learned, but you don't have to think too much. It's kind of mindless viewing, or like if it might be a Sketchflix Plus episode, or sometimes I'll go through demonstrating things like back in Virtual Voyage 1, I did a Dorothy through the decades, which was if Dorothy had been Dorothy at each point in history. So what she would have looked like in the 1920s, 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, even up into the 2000s. So I had all these Dorothys. This time I did... oh, this was not even a Sea Day. I'm totally lying to you. It was a Poolside Activities. This was an activity. It was called Casting the Can-Can. All that other stuff still stands, but it's not relevant to this. This is called Casting the Can-Can. It was a sample I did, that's what I should say. Where for Moulin Rouge, I gave everyone a template, and you could draw over the top of them to make the version of a can-can that would represent you best. So a lot of the character designs should be characters that like you like or you're really familiar with, and they could be from Baz Luhrmann films, but I also love pulling in other references, like things I like about Disney or things I enjoy, like old movies, The Wizard of Oz. So this was my Wizard of Oz can-can dancer. You'll see a bunch of other ones pop up throughout this flip as well. Overall, I think I did 20 showgirl costumes just in those couple of lessons alone. I didn't teach the showgirl costumes, but like as samples and demos, yeah, that was there were so many designs. I almost felt like I was not teaching a course and I was designing for Lido or something. Appropriate, right? So this was a part of Embarkation Day. Also, it's really fun to see the contrast in like things that I did before the course started and things that happen afterwards or during. I get through these phases where sometimes I think I'm going to be really neat about everything, and I like it when I do it, but it's just not, I can't do that all the time. It takes way too long, and also sometimes I enjoy being messy as well. So I'm going to say I just enjoy both, and you'll definitely see I've floated through both of those feelings in all of these. But like I said, simplified features, regular features, shadow map, really important things, just basic things to know. And I thought that was good to get it learnt up front so that everyone felt like they had a good starting point. That's not something I typically do in Virtual Voyage though, so you know, I'll always kind of, I guess, how do I say this? It's hard. Sometimes there's an assumed knowledge when you're going into a course. It's not something I ever really promote because I want everyone to feel like they can do it, because I do believe it's broken down easy enough to be able to follow any of the lessons. But sometimes, like for this specifically, if I didn't go through this would have been a lot of assumed knowledge. So I felt like I really had to break this down in particular, since the entire thing I was going to be looking at fashion features and faces and, you know, forms. This was something I had to break down. Typically, I don't usually go that in depth with like just doing the faces or anything. That's more of my whimsical illustration course. I would break that down further. But as it is, that was kind of what we did in whimsical illustration anyway. So, bit of a crossover there. If you would like to pick your poison as far as where you wanted to learn that from, it is also very much available on YouTube. I didn't learn all of my what is it called, like face mapping and, you know, setting up faces and body structures. I learned that from books, from the library, you know, long before YouTube even existed. Now YouTube has so many resources. So my encouragement to you, I know this goes against everything marketing principles taught me, but my encouragement for you is that if you are going into a course and you think there is some implied or assumed knowledge, that there's no shame in trying to learn some of that on YouTube before you start. It might just be really simple, like, you know, here's a little face map, here's where the features go, this is how to draw a nose. You might just want to like have a go at a few of those things before you get started, because it can really shift your experience if you feel like you're missing a few of those basic skills. And as much as I do try to go through everything I think is relevant, you know, I can't know where everyone's coming from. So I usually say it's for like beginners who have definitely started already. My courses, beginners, more intermediate. This one was a bit more intermediate, and some of it was a little bit advanced. So not in this grand scheme of, you know, the world of illustration, but for what I typically put out there, and for what I think my audience is used to, I would say this was a bit more intermediate advanced. But I still think beginners could do it, and I've seen people have really great successes. That's a whole other thing. I'll let other people give you the testimonial, not me. It doesn't mean much coming from me, does it? This was a part of the live theme night lesson for Romeo and Juliet. For the live theme nights, we get together usually on a Saturday about 2 p.m. Pacific and do a 2-hour live art party. Steve does these little opening skits, so you'll see it. Goodness, where is it? You'll see it when we get there. The one for Romeo and Juliet was so funny and so layered with like inside jokes that I've talked about a lot on my channel before, and just like old, like I was not dressed as, Steve had photoshopped me into a television as Kath from Kath and Kim, and I did the whole opening monologue from Romeo and Juliet. He had like recorded it. Steve does music and everything. It's like a little mini show to open up the virtual art party. It's also a really great way to set expectations, because like you really can't take anything too seriously after the intro skit. If you've ever seen them before, I'm sure you could let people in the comments know that they're just wildly ridiculous. But this was the live theme night. So yeah, so we do the intro skit. We usually do a bit of a lesson, like a warm up and a play. This was that. And then we do a game with a giveaway in the middle, and then afterwards we do another lesson. So yeah, we just hang out. We also do show and tell at the end. It's a super fun couple of hours to spend together. Always one of the highlights for me, definitely, getting dressed up, putting on that little performance, and then going and having a lovely art party. So yeah, I have lots of good fond feelings about our live theme nights. Always the thing I was worried about too. I can't believe it looking back. They've been so much less stressful than I thought. Here is some of the lesson from one of those cruise activities. We did Dazzling Eyes. I taught a lot about line work for kind of eyeliner work, and then shadows, working with shadows and blends. That was a really great way to kind of put all of that very specific knowledge into a lesson. I really liked that. This is Glinda from my Showgirls. There's that half-tone version. They probably don't look like much in the screen, but they are different. I use my little stamp set here as well. I put Wizard of Oz in there just to call back to this. A lot of this journaling gets done afterwards. I'll stick anything and everything in. Like this was a demo from the Live on the Lido deck. We were putting together these little dancers just with diamond shapes and accessorizing them with lots of different lines that you could create with different mixed media, like the different texture you got with crayon, with a brush pen, Tombow marker. We also did a lesson called Tina's Sparkles. If you know Tina's Sparkles from Strictly Ballroom, I taught everyone the Sprinkle of Twinkle, which was fun because I used that a lot. A lot of it really is about trying to teach you all the things that I have a lot of fun with when I'm journaling, because honestly, that's all I know. Like, I don't know the rest. I know what I love, and that's what I keep it focused to. Like, the things that bring me the most joy and the things that I have a lot of fun with, and where some of that technique comes from, and where some of the lessons that are appropriate to learn to be able to have fun with it as well, where they come from. This was remember I showed you that template that I made? This was that, the matching mannequins poolside activity. Again, just a printable activity, just to be completed. People sometimes cut them out, stick them in. Sometimes people redraw the templates into their journals and just make a good time out of it. I think some people even do these on Procreate as well, like actually just put them into their iPads and do it on there. So I don't know, I don't judge, do whatever you want. I love to print them out and just get crazy with it, but also that's a part of my gig as the as the workshop host. I have to show the demos, so I can't do it digitally myself. I've tried a few times, I just really don't get down with the digital. I think you can see I love to be in here with all the supplies, bouncing around, doing whatever I feel like. And a lot of the journaling as well is about the experience. It's very meta. I'm journaling about the experience of hosting a journaling workshop. So if you look into that, like, you can absolutely read anything. I don't really care. A lot of it's quotes. A lot of it's questioning things about, like, what we might be doing next. Yeah, it's a mixture of personal and reflective, introspective. Whatever I feel prompted by, really. The pages are usually just demo pieces until I start putting all the journaling and the little stamps and stickers everywhere. These were demos from the last theme night we had. We were doing 20s, 30s fashion illustrations. I loved that. Everyone did such a great job on that. There are usually these lessons that completely surprise me out of nowhere. Island fantasy. Where it's not like I expect anyone to do bad, but I always expect that... like, whenever something's new, I usually get a bit of pushback, and fashion is always the thing that I think people get a little bit scared of. And I'd seen everyone go through this, and I thought, oh, okay, well, people are getting really brave, and I'm really excited about this because I think we could push it. And but in a live setting, I understand some people get a little like, oh, I don't know. Maybe I'll try that afterwards. I'll try it with the replay. But with that last theme night, we had, like... We've been having record number show and tells, so many people showing and telling, so many people like giving it a really red hot go and then adding their own little spins to it. And those last ones, especially because I taught hands, and that was even something that I was thinking like, oh, I could be on or off about teaching hands today. And I just thankfully was on that day. I was very, very impressed. And in the Virtual Voyage number 1, the lesson that did that for me was when we did the live on the Lido deck with the Fathoms Below, and when we had the references with Janae and Sarah, the Neverland Mermaid photo reference set. Steve did like 60 photos or something that we picked to be sketch references. When I taught the body mapping on that and people were trying it, even my mother tried it, I was blown away. So yeah, there's always these things that people do in the cruises. I think for Burtonville, I want to say it was the self-portraits. I think they were really, really fun. And I was very pleased to see so many of them. I think someone even did a Christmas card with their Burton portrait, which is so fab. I'm always shocked by at least one or two of the lessons and the results. They're always so impressive. And I say that, sorry, I'm just checking obsessively again. I say that because a lot of the time you guys set me up to think that you're not doing well, and then you do a show and tell and I'm shocked. But yeah, this was a part of the feminine fashion forms. This was another cruise activities. You can see a lot of demos here about forms, lines for form, setting up the structure of the fashion pose. This one was really fun to look at as well. I loved seeing people find success with this because it often looks really intimidating. But breaking it down into the 3 parts, even though there was some challenging stuff in there, I think I saw lots of great successes in there. And then also the fun background work that we did. I always joke, but I should do a class where it's just backgrounding, finishing backgrounds. In my Memory to Memento course, I actually do have a lesson, and there are 10 backgrounding techniques, which I usually employ in a lot of these anyway, but this one was a pretty new one for me, this kind of shadow sticker silhouette thing. But yeah, it was a great way just to finish it, and then to bring more of that Moulin Rouge in. The background was inspired by the big heart motif in the elephant. We redesigned Satine's dress as well. We do a lot. We do a lot of fashion designing. We love to pretend we're haute couture designers in Virtual Voyage. Goodness, between the first one, remember we did the Christian Dior, we did the Dior bar jacket. Like that was a full-on illustration that we all tackled. I was very, very happy to go through that. I love fashion. Fashion illustration is a big like undercurrent of a lot of what I enjoy about illustrating as well. I don't usually do it a lot anymore because I love to explore all of this as well, but there's always just, I have such a soft spot for fashion illustration and how wild it can be. This was a part of a printable activity, the Poolside Activities, called A Life Lived in Fear. One of the famous quotes from Strictly Ballroom is, I'm not going to say it in Spanish because I can't, but a life lived in fear is a life half lived. Which apparently is a quote that Baz Luhrmann himself came up with, which I thought was really fun. And we actually looked at diving into our fears. Some of you guys are on here, YouTube comments. That's you I'm talking to. Goodness, I feel so vulnerable having you see it. No, I mean, you can see it. Some of you all really get gutsy in those comment sections. You're like very, very empowered by computer courage. Look, I'm not going to confront anything, but I thought it was a really good way to kind of bring some of that more honest journaling to the course. And because I anticipated that the theme would have been a bit more mature with Baz Luhrmann films, I thought it was okay to dive a little bit deeper into some of these more personal and more challenging themes, like journaling about your fears. I mean, I have a lot. These were all kind of like art, career, journal-based fears. I have fear of journaling. No, but like lots of art focused, and this was lots of me focused. And I really went into it and tried to be as honest as I could. There are a few things I had to leave out just for obvious personal safety reasons. I mean, maybe not so obvious, but you know, you can't just be divulging everything out into the internet. It stays there forever. But yeah, I mean, I did get a lot of people responding about these comments that I get from YouTube. And the issue I had, like, just because we're here, we're on YouTube, and I feel like I might be addressing some people in this case, and forgive me if my foot's already in my mouth, but I don't have a problem with people critiquing the art. I don't really solicit comment for the art a lot of the time, so I have to question where it really comes from, what the need to put that suggestion towards me, like where that comes from. I do always believe though that there is a real person on the other side of the computer, which is hard because sometimes there are bots, but those bots wouldn't be so specific with some of the comments. But look, I used to be a very, very confrontational person. In school, I was called a bully. Not my first high school, but at my second. I have led a life of confronting a lot of that and dealing with a lot of that and actually internalizing a lot of it as my own problem. And as I've grown older and as I've matured through even my few years on social media sharing, I just don't believe any of it is a reflection of me, and that whatever it stirs up inside of me should definitely be looked at. And I try to be objective about the criticism. Like, is it true? Is it real where that's coming from? Because if there's an objective truth to it, I do want to address some of it. Maybe not publicly, but even in my own actions moving forward. Like, if there is a truth there, I want to at least be conscious of that moving forward. But I always check it back in with the truth. And sometimes, like, the truth is, yeah, like, people have said, like, oh, you got fat. I mean, for sure, I did put on a lot of weight. Like, I put on tons of weight ever since I've moved to the States. I just more question, like, where that's coming from. And is that really for me to process from that person? And I really don't think it is. I don't think that's a two-way communication we need to have. People are free to leave that comment there, and I don't really moderate the comments like you think I do. Not you, the proverbial you. But those kind of more personal comments are, I always believe, a reflection of whatever that person might be struggling with themselves. Because we tend to notice that in others, and if there's such an aggression behind it, I mean, I imagine that's what fuels that need to write, because I felt that myself too. Don't get me wrong, like, this is another thing that I practice, but, you know, my faith tells me that I have to be humble, and so in all humility, I do try to assess, like, have I ever been tempted to say that to someone? Of course. I through high school, I called many girls many horrible things. So, you know, got to take the log out of my own eye, right? Before I put attention on the splinter in someone else's. You know, I try not to be that way now, but I also know that we're all human. and that this type of interaction, this social media interaction, is relatively new when you think about the grand scheme of history and how people communicate with each other. And we're yet to see really the full effect. I think the next generations, as they grow up, wow, this is a tangent, but when the next generations grow up, will really understand what it's like to have communication, not face to face, and behind this lens of, blank profiles and words that come from nowhere. And it's just a fascinating topic for me overall. So they don't hurt as much as you would think. I get really frustrated because my first response is to always attack. I'm just built that way. I'm very, very confrontational. I hope it doesn't come across. But in real life, if anyone said that to me, like, it's on. I don't stay quiet. But on YouTube, I don't want to put that across. I don't want anyone to leave my channel feeling worse or, horrible about their day. At the very, least, I'd like you to leave just feeling how you came. So pleasant, or, maybe I don't want to make it worse for anyone. So I also don't think it's going to help, but I do question it. I question a lot of the psychology of it and what people need me to hear. But it also keeps me really accountable too. Some of the things that I've heard are not for nothing. They're actually not even really addressed to me. They're addressed to the community that I work in. They're actually addressed, some of the problems I see addressed a lot actually, are addressed because in other community spaces, this is how these people have been hurt before. Like lots of false promises as well. Like, I'm just going to use this as an example. When people attack me for false promises, I always come right back to, did I ever promise that? And I know I'm just famous for saying, I'm famous. No, I'm pretty famous for saying, I'm never going to promise it. I don't want to promise it. I will say maybe, I want my get out of jail free card. There have been times in the past where I have said something and I've had to address like why, a YouTube video is not coming. Like when I put on here a few weeks ago, even through this, the second week of Virtual Voyage, I couldn't make my Friday upload and I decided I wouldn't do it. I always said that if that happened, I would let people know. So I got on here, put my big girl panties on and just put a community post out and said, I'm not going to be on here. So I know the truth of that matter is that I am accountable to what I've said. And that, is there any relevance to that? No, there isn't. So I'll just let that comment live there. That can be that person's opinion. It's not going to change how I move forward. The issue is that person most likely, and I'm not blind as well, like I go through lots of the community, I stay very attached to everything that's going on just to make sure I know that, we're all kind of feeling each other out and making sure we're all, happy and getting along and there's space for everyone. I see where some of these problems come from, and it makes me sad, first of all, because there's problems that just really don't need to exist. I understand where they come from, but that specific issue has been brought in from another space, and that person is just responding to something they think they're going to be hurt from again. Like another empty promise, like I don't want to hear it from another YouTuber telling me something's coming and it's never coming. So as soon as they feel like I might be doing that, they'll leave me that comment or they'll message me and attack. And it's really hard. Like I said, my first instinct is to respond really negatively and really forcefully, but I do have to always put into perspective that's a real person who is most likely talking from a place of hurt or fear. And does it have anything to do with me, first of all? Is there truth for that for me? If there's not, then how do I respectfully move forward? And usually it's just by demonstrating. I find that when words kind of fall flat, you demonstrate. So I demonstrate by putting another video out next Friday, just like I said I would, or addressing, that I can't do it if I can't do it, and always remaining accountable to that and what I've said. But that's hard because, there's no accountability police on YouTube. In fact, it's kind of infamous for having a lot of creators that don't have a lot of accountability and that get into a lot of drama. So let's not go there. We've been on this for so long, but I guess it was kind of a way to address that in the middle of a flip. I'm sure you've skipped it if you didn't want to hear that, but yeah, that's just my 2 cents worth. It's not a fear of like, oh, people don't like my art. It's a fear that I'm being opened up to types of communication where I can be a big damage, knowing my own personal flaws of being very confrontational, very biting with my words. I know I have a great capacity to do lots of damage in that space, and my fear is that these types of interactions will, look, even here, interactions I fear, confrontation from people online, I fear that it's kind of like an enemy attack. It like coaxes it out of me. So I always have to take a big deep breath, and I don't read my DMs. That's probably why, if you've sent me a DM in the past few weeks, I have been struggling to remain connected that way. But yeah, I do things for myself that way that just make sure that I'm in the right space for when I do need to address those things. Anyway, that's a great thing to journal about, right? I mean, it's there, it's in my brain, now it's on this paper. You know, maybe I won't have these issues 3 virtual voyages from now, and I'll be reflecting on this and have a new set of fears. Fingers crossed. Anyway, okay, let me just check the everything. Okay, great. I'm still in focus, I'm still in frame. The lighting might have shifted a little bit because it's getting darker outside, but this was the Tina Sparkle little, like the little sprinkles of twinkles lesson. This was actually a PDF, so it's a lot of information that I used to teach the lesson, and also this the lines for form on the fashion figure and around around different forms. That was really interesting to look at as well. So this was all live on the Lido deck for Strictly Ballroom. And then we go straight into Moulin Rouge. This is there's another one of those stickers. That's the Moulin Rouge passport stamp. More little samples of my mannequins. This was my template for the can-can dances. It was also the template for the showgirls. There's the Satine finale showgirl. Oh, we did memory game as well. We did a memory game. Steve did all these little drawings. I did some of them, I did that one, but Steve did a lot of the drawings, and we would have them all laid out, and then we would cover the screen and then take one away, and then people had to write what was taken away in the chat. That was really fun. We used to play it with art supplies. Like, we'd have a whole bunch of art supplies here, and then when the screen would go black, we'd take one away and you'd have to guess. It gets so stressful for me. I'm terrible at hosting the games because I always just want to give away the answers. I believe that you win the game if you're the best cheat, so I'm terrible to play games with. Anyway, I had fun. I collect all that stuff. I just keep it all. Even Steve's little research stuff you'll see over there. He had a Pinterest board that I printed out, which was a very nightmarish process to figure out how to do. I eventually had to screenshot all the boards and put them into Photoshop. It was a nightmare. Little demos from lessons. These were original sketches that usually I do my sketches for these types of more finished pieces. I do them in stages. There'll be an original sketch. I'll scan in, or like a concept somewhere, and then I'll clean up the sketch, scan it again, make it red, print it off. Because it's red, I can draw over the top of it. This is actually kind of pink. I can draw over the top of it in black or pencil, put it back in, scan it again. It's like seriously so much scanning. Put it back into the computer, take away the red layer, and then I'm only left with the line work. And that's usually what I'll print out again. Oh goodness, I printed out again for these in a light kind of beige color so that I could color it in lineless and then do lining over the top of it. So this can be like a 6-step process to get to this more finished, clean look. I could just do it from the beginning, but I'm too messy with my sketches to be able to clean them up well. The process works for me. And look, I keep all of it here, and it's not hoarding if it ends up in a journal, so no harm, no foul. These were the originals for Truth, Love, L'amour, French, my fake French, Beauty, and Freedom. And they were all, this one was, yeah, they were all based off Moulin Rouge stuff. So there's the heart motif. This was the elephant kind of idea. This was the windmill and the banners. And then I had the stars. This is the singing moon. And I used the stars kind of like an Erte homage as well. Pulling in all the references that I was enjoying. This was the Satine. This was my demo piece. In a rare twist of fate, 2 of the times I demoed something on live, I actually did better demos than I did my first practice, which like never happens. We're always laughing at Art Journaling the magic that the worst time you ever do something will be the time you teach it live. But the complete opposite happened. Not that this is the worst time I've ever done it, but I was shocked to find that my version I did live was so much better than this one. So yeah, we'll have a look at that. Obviously very much inspired by the daisy that I did on Instagram Live. Pulling that in. That was a really fun lesson. I enjoy doing this because I don't love it. Shauna knows, I don't love it. But I just enjoy the panic of like throwing watercolor all over your drawing. But it's a really fun effect. I think it's really pretty. Anyway, these were these are real. Everything else is fake. No, these are a real copy of the sketches I did. So you can see the difference in size. This is, I don't know why it's so interesting for me to look at this, but this is how big they are when I draw them. And then this is how small they are when I color them in. And then when they actually got printed as stickers, where are they? Yeah, they're this small. So they're smaller again. So they get like sized up, sized down a million times over. Usually it's a formatting thing. I just want to be able to fit everything onto one page. But yeah, it's kind of crazy. I had a hard time coloring these in with Copic markers because the brush tip of the Copic marker is kind of big, and I found it difficult to get all that fine detail in there. But I think they turned out well in the end. I love this pink one. That's a Tina Sparkle Can Dancer. I did have 4 muses and then also some of the extra sideline characters for that casting the Can. There's another Glinda one. I did 2 of those. Sometimes I literally do the same demo over and over again. Sometimes I get rid of the other ones, but like I've kept a lot of everything that I did to make this course. Lots of face angles. This demo was done live. It's a bit more muddy, a bit more messy. I'll always kind of just have these little bits over here, like I was teaching these lips a little bit bigger so people could see the shapes. So a lot of the live demo lessons you can tell because there'll be some kind of feature, it'll be a lot more muddy, a lot more scritchy, scrabbly. Wait, that's not the word. Sketchy. Scribbly? Sketchy. What did I say? Scritchy, scrabbly? Anyway, it'll be a lot more that, and there'll usually be little extra demo illustrations around the side of the page somewhere. But that is the second part. Oh goodness, I can't keep you here forever. I've got to get a move on. This is the third part, another one of the pictures. This one actually didn't make it into the Cruise Muse PDF reference sheets. The sad part about that was we had such a good time with the shoot. It was super ambitious to do all that we did, so we were really happy with the results. But we had too many photos. Like at the end of the day, I could only use 12 of them. I could have used more, but I wanted to keep the PDFs really concise. Sometimes it's kind of worse to have too much option, especially if you're already kind of not struggling, but if the options you've got are going to present a bit of a new challenge, you don't want to be then overwhelmed by the thought of 60 more coming your way. So I wanted to make it concise for that reason. So Steve has a lot of the extra photos that we didn't use that are just as beautiful, if not more beautiful sometimes. Like some of the large, like what are they called? The full shots, the full frame shots are really, really pretty. And I like other ones of the close-ups too, except I had to vary up the hand poses because I was trying to teach with them. But yeah, so go check out Steve at Steve Lemonis Photography if you want to see more of those images. This was we used as a part of the opening sketch for the Great Gatsby live theme night. The theme nights were both themed. So we had 2 live on the Lido decks. They were Moulin Rouge and Strictly Ballroom. So those are a little less themed. We did get dressed up, but they don't have intro sketches or like. I don't think do we play games at that? I forget if we play games at those ones. I don't think we do. But at the live theme nights, the ones on the weekend, those are where we get dressed up. And so those we could only do because we had 2 weeks. It was 2 weekends. We did the Capulet Masquerade, and then we did a night at Gatsby's. So that was a night at Gatsby's. These are more of the passport stamps. I actually forgot to line in her nose, so I had to do it on the computer. I know it's just a random detail, but I do make mistakes a lot of the time. I'm very, whatever. It is what it is, Santa. This has got cat hair everywhere. This cat hair's stuck. All right. This was a live on the Lido deck. I love the glitter. Oh, goodness, keep me away from the glitter. This was a Tina Sparkles little number. We were still looking at the form, the kind of fashion form, and then just doing a lot of expressive watercolor with that. This was the Fran's Pan-Pacific makeover, and this was incorporating all of the different lessons we'd learned. So we did the edges with the hair. I even put her name kind of lettered in her edges. The Frangipanis, the big hair silhouette kind of thing. I had a big like pineapple fantasy going on. And then the dazzling eyes lessons with the shadows and the liners. So that kind of pulled together all of the lessons from those first 3 video tutorials, which I like to do sometimes, kind of pull it all together just so that it all makes sense. All the individual parts make something bigger. I don't have to, but I do like to bring it together for those sometimes. This was more of the demo from our Romeo and Juliet theme night. just using a lot of the imagery from the movie, this kind of blazing heart, candles, neon blue crosses, just finding lots of those fun images or kind of motifs that really, showed the film. This is... I think I just did this for fun. Oh, no, you know what it was? This was Sketchflix Plus. So I did a whole Sketchflix. None of those are in here. But if you've seen, I have a whole playlist of Sketchflix on my YouTube channel. The Plus is on when I do like playtest Patreon, which real side history here, but playtest Patreon, all that I learned from that is kind of what became Virtual Voyage. Just in case you're wondering why I don't do those anymore. Playtest Patreon was always to learn about the different types of contents I could try, how they were each received, kind of digital content I could provide, things that were entertaining, things that were informative and educational. I was learning a lot of that, even like the mailing stuff out, with subscription box stuff, that was good for Creator Box. So those playtest Patreon experiences were always only supposed to be 2 or 3 month experiences to learn more of that, so that I could take it and apply it to projects like this, because I didn't want to just go straight in not knowing anything. Even with Virtual Voyage, it wasn't until I'd done live teaching with Art Journaling the Magic that I really felt confident enough to do it by myself. So I always give credit where credit is due, and it was definitely Playtest Patreon helped me learn a lot of that, so thank you for all of you who were involved in that back in the day, and Art Journaling the Magic, obviously, thank you for teaching me how to teach live and give live experiences online. It's been a really interesting challenge, but I think Steve and I were both saying the other day, like, especially with the little intro skits and like getting dressed up and playing dress ups and doing all our photo shoots as references and all this stuff, it's kind of been slowly building to this point where all these skills kind of like aligned at the same cross section, and it just felt like it was exactly the right time to try something as risky and as crazy as Virtual Voyage. So now we're considering what a real voyage looks like. See you on Royal Caribbean in the summer. No, I mean, I would totally do it. You don't have to ask me twice. Also don't know the logistics of doing anything like a live retreat anywhere, but those are in the back of my brain for another time. Anyway, Sketchflix Plus we do on Virtual Voyage or Playtest Patreon, and it was just a Sketchflix that went beyond what I would do on YouTube. So sometimes I would break down the exact times that it took to do each sketch, just to see how like a 20-second little sketch from a movie showed up like 20 more times in my work over the next few weeks. Or for this Sketchflix Plus for Virtual Voyage, I will usually do the whole Sketchflix. I'll make all of the sketches downloadable and available for people to use as references or just to try. But I also do a finished piece. I actually take one of the inspirations and actually finish it, because that's something I've never realized I didn't do on, I mean, I guess I did, but I don't know why I never thought it was an issue. I never did that on YouTube. I never actually took the inspiration and used it to show you a finished piece. I just used them as concept sketches for something. But even one of my Tim Burton ones, the Edward Scissorhands Sketchflix, I think is on, I'm pretty sure that's on YouTube. Don't quote me. But the Edward Scissorhands one, I ended up using the topiary, bushes sketch that I did on that and applied it to a topiary hairdo sketch that I did for Virtual Voyage number 2, Burtonville, and did a whole poolside activities where we made hairstyles out of hedges. And so I definitely used the ideas. They've come back around to inspire new things, but it was never something I ended up showing. I don't know why. I probably won't do it. I'll keep it for those special like Sketchflix Plus episodes, but that was just C-Day content. One of those things you can kind of turn your brain off and just enjoy. Oh, here's something real subtle. This is a bit of a pop-up. We did Juliet's wings. This is actually just a little bonus extra. The actual printable was a template for these masks. I wanted to make sure everyone at least had a mask for the masquerade, the Capulet Masquerade party. And I did a couple of different designs here. This one's a bit more like newsprint I was going for. I even put the Cruise Muse, the Juliet photo in front there. I gave the pop-up printable as well, the little template, and I ended up backing mine together so that they pop up together. These were all made out of paper scrapped as well. If you've ever done my concept stamping workshop, this was my collage catalogue printouts that I just didn't need anymore. And this was the peel from an envelope, the little plastic peel for the sticky bit. and then some of the feathers that were flying around from the wings. But yeah, this is a whole host of stuff on here. These, I think we're coming to the first of the portraits. When we get dressed up for the parties, we will take portraits. Steve does them. We did a bit of a 90s grunge. Mine was a bit more like a 90s version of Juliet if she were a bloke. And Steve was going real, like real Romeo, because his PacSun shirt is the same print as that Romeo shirt that Leonardo DiCaprio wears in the film. And here is here's the television we had for the opening sketch. This is me as Kath Day Knight. I did the whole intro, filmed it, and anyway, we had this on a stick, and we would hold it just up in front of the screen so that it filled up the whole screen, and we would just get closer and closer and closer, and then when we dropped it, I think we had like another reveal. Yeah, it's so funny. My goodness, it's just worth seeing Virtual Voyage just to get a peek at how ridiculous those intro skits are. We work really hard on them too. I've even been known to sing on some of them. And I'm not a singer. Anyway, and Steve learns choreography too. So that was fun. That's always a great memory. A lot of my memories are super fun and super funny as well, and that's what I love, because every time I flip through these, like, how could I flip to this page and it not put a smile on my face for everything that this even represents, like Kath from Kath and Kim, Idol, looking at that slightly cross-eyed look in my face, classic. The fact that it's photoshopped so horribly too, but just the opening sketch, I love it. I love it so much. This is why I love journaling. It's always a prompting of all these feelings. Sometimes a little emotional, but a lot of the time I journal about things that are so happy and so fun that it always just feels fun to look through them, and I'm loving it. More of the little bits and pieces I'd collected. This was the Juliet can one with the gold. Love that. These were more of casting the can. These were the original little demo pieces. That's Fran from Strictly Ballroom, Daisy from The Great Gatsby, and Cruella. I gave them beautiful big head pieces too. I had such fun doing these. I reckon I could actually submit these to someone. I don't know who would need them, but I was very proud of them. For those of you who don't know, if I wasn't going to make it as a dancer, like my first jobs out of high school I thought I was going to do, I was applying for fashion school and actually got in, but I got offered a job to go to Tokyo Disney to work instead as a performer. So I thought, you know what, I'm going to go live out my dream real quick. And I ended up never stopping dancing until an accident in 2015. But all of that to say, I always imagined I would actually go back to fashion design. And so this is what I've always had a passion for, and I've always loved to explore fashion. It's just art for your body. I love women's fashion. I really couldn't care less about men's fashion. So even these activities, like, they very much speak to that part of me that you know, feels 16, 17 years old again, and really thought I had a future in fashion. I went and did like work study for fashion as well. I went and worked at Fashion Week in Australia. I really thought I was going to do it. Who knows, maybe one day, but I think I've lost the competitive edge for fashion, truly. And I loved my dance career. I would never have changed any of that. But it is fun to kind of revisit the what ifs, and yeah, I just felt very proud of that. Really good kind of full circle moment, I guess, because you think back to when you're 16, 17 and like where you ended up all these years later. You could never guess. I would never have guessed that I'd be literally speaking to, first of all, these didn't really exist when I was that age. We had phones, but they didn't quite do everything that these ones do. I didn't even think YouTube was a thing, was it? I'm sure it was, but I didn't really know about it or care about it. Probably not the way I do now. Let's put it all out of our minds for a second. We're here to do a journal flip, not to get too nostalgic. This was a part of the live theme night lesson for the Capulet Masquerade. This was my practice piece. This was my actual demo piece. Apart from the fact that her head is on a jaunty angle that defies all belief, I do think this one came out better than this one. And so that was one of those rare occasions where the live lesson worked out better. And this was a little piece that I did for the formatting, because I put it online. I want it to be some kind of like inviting when you come in. And I've got a very standard Virtual Voyage format that I just replicate for each one, which just keeps it really nice and uniform. But I wanted to add just a little bit of zhuzh for this one, so I created a red curtain that kind of had all of the movies in there, and and all these beautiful different shades of red and pink and orange. And I put this on the infographics, so every time you would come to a new new content that was offered, because we would drip the content out daily. Every time you come to a new piece of content, this was the border around the infographic. So it'd have some like, hello, welcome, today we're going to do this. Maybe there'd be some photos here. Yeah, if you've never seen any of the Virtual Voyages, the formatting style, because some people are really unfamiliar with Teachable, which is totally understandable. We all have different teaching platforms. I know Rizuku is a really popular one. A lot of people do things like Skillshare as well. Like I have no idea what tons of other ones look like. I know Teachable and Rizuku. That's because I teach on both. But my own personal school is through Teachable. Rizuku I just guest teach on. And even then I don't really know the back end of that one. But the if you want to see what these kind of virtual voyages look like, the Merry Mix Media that I hosted for 2020 was a mini virtual voyage. Like a very, very mini one, including the live lesson. We didn't do an intro skit or anything, but it's very much formatted the same way. So go and have a look at that if you have never. And also, when you sign up for Teachable, for my JLB Creative Teachable, if you don't opt out of email notifications, you will get the coupons for the next virtual voyage or the next workshops. I always like to give my return students a coupon to the value of $30, $50, depending on how big the course is, to join the next class. So if you're someone that is looking for a discount, I don't put my courses on sale. None of them have been out long enough for me to believe that any of the value has depreciated. It's kind of a really weird thing to like say that like this learning is suddenly worth less for me. So I find it hard to put those types of things on sale. As far as content bundles go, like Patreon, the playtest bundles, like those things I might put on sale, or perhaps if I retire a class after a while, maybe, but yeah, definitely not anytime soon. But instead of sales, I do offer return student coupons. So if you're not a part of JLB Creative Teachable, you can join on the Merry Mix Medias. Those are completely free. Then you'll get to feel what it's like to be in there, and you'll also receive that coupon. As long as you don't opt out of email notifications, because then you won't get the email. This was a part of the C Day, I believe. Maybe this was a Poolside printable. I really don't know. I keep forgetting. It's probably got it on here somewhere, but I'm not gonna read it out for you all, just to get it. But this was about lifting layouts. So different layouts from different places. This is one I did in a journal that originally was urban sketches from Japanese buildings, and I reinterpreted the layout. So it was pulling like the text blocks, the image blocks, the kind of defining features of the composition of the pages, being able to lift those and then place your new theming and your new work inside of those. Specifically related to art journaling, because this is kind of one of the things about art journaling that I think we don't dive into too much because it's a touch theoretical, and I think most of us are just here to have a lot of fun. But that's the best thing about being a teacher, is that sometimes I can just create the lesson. The learning is in there, but it's still kind of fun. You just don't know you're learning. But this one especially, like this is something I actually think about a lot, being able to blend the images and the words together in a way that kind of does justice to both, really. So you're making space for your journaling, but you're also appreciating your art time, then being able to really get the art and the journaling of it all. So composition is kind of one of those things that I look at and I have a bit of an interest in. And these were just from old layouts. This one, in fact, was from my Hobonichi. I wonder if it was this one. If it was a different. Oh yeah, here it is. Was it that one? Yes, it is. So if you look at these two pages, is that in screen? I don't know. Hang on, let me just make sure this is in screen. There we go. If you look at these, we have the image is just here. The image is just here, where the writing is kind of arched over the top, and then this image right in the middle, this was this kind of image here. Originally we break it down into blocks. The images might change because the candle might be a different shape to this, but essentially the image blocks are the same. And then we had an image that framed the outside edge, the kind of curved over semicircle over the outside edge, much like this face did here. So this was a way to bring in the Romeo and Juliet theming of Juliet in this really cute style, with the crosses, and then into the candles and into the coral from the fish tank scene. So lots of different blends of the movie and like things that stood out to me. Some things stand out differently to other people. That's really fun to see what their interpretations are as well, and that's what I love about the sharing part. But this is about lifting that layout. And so we did that for a few different layouts, and I do find those helpful. I find them helpful from time to time. There's always, when I go into things, I think I just want to be intuitive, but there are times when I'm just not as intuitive as other times. That's when I like the prompting. That's when I like the lessons to kick in and say, oh, you know what? Maybe nothing's coming to your brain, but you could try this. You know, we've done this before. Have a go with that again. Reinterpret that. So there's always somewhere to start. That's why I'm not such a big believer in art block. I know, controversial topic. Let's not go there. Foot out of mouth. I'm not really a huge proponent of feeling creatively blocked. I think there's always something to try. I think once you get going, it's a matter of... I'm not going to say anything. Perseverance, maybe? I don't know. Look, to each their own, I guess, is always my point. But for me, I don't really believe that for me. And that just might be my luck, so lucky me. I'll just be appreciative for that. This was teaching some of that live on the Lido deck lesson. This was actually more just demoing it. I didn't actually teach it on this, but that was good. Still got that there. The actual pieces themselves were from the feminine fashion form. Teaching a quick fashion face, structuring the bodies. We did it in 3 parts so that each time you approached a different section, you were learning just a little bit more. But the base, yeah, it was kind of a good look at the base, and then we were just adding bits and pieces. So some people only do one of the tutorials from cruise activities, then go back to the second one when they're feeling a bit more confident that they've got a handle on the first one. Some people go through all of them in one day. Really just depends, and that's why I like to break them up. Not because one is like beginner, intermediate, advanced, although I do think it's like, you know, good, like little bit of learning here, extension here, and then go the whole hog in number 3. I guess maybe that is what I'm saying. You really think I'd know, wouldn't you? The amount of time I spend thinking about it. I change my mind all the time. That's why I never want to be so specific and committed to any one particular statement. Let's just say it is what it is, Santa, as Mariah would say. Here is Freedom, the Port of Inspiration, the Great Gatsby. These were a lot of my practice sketches putting together my lesson that I wanted to teach, finding the best poses, which ones are more effective for the lesson and what I want to be teaching. Even things like turning the head. I did this and I really liked this until I realized the Tiffany's headband that Daisy wears is on that side, on the left-hand side, her right-hand side of her head. So it was the wrong angle of the face. I had to switch the angles. So stuff like that, I could absolutely make that mistake if I just didn't think about it beforehand. Even still, when I did my portrait, I actually did my hair. I was looking in the mirror when I did it, and I did my finger wave the wrong way, so I still make that mistake, but thankfully not in the lesson. This was the lesson, figuring more of it out. I wanted to start with number 1, front on. Number 2, I wanted to get a little 3/4 with it. Number 3, I wanted to introduce the hands and the whole finished piece. That's how I sometimes structure my lessons for myself. I usually also write out a time guide, because if I'm not careful, you know how I'm talking right now? I could do that for hours on a live Zoom call. So I have to keep myself on task. Otherwise, I'll just talk my whole way through it. We won't do anything. We'll just have fun. Also a good thing, but we are there to have fun and learn too. So I've got to make sure both things happen. This is the portraits we did for Strictly Ballroom. Super glam. I was Tina Sparkle and Steve was Fran. But obviously a bit more editorialized versions of those. We were going for a bit more of an editorial look for these portraits, and portraits that kind of all matched in style and feel, but it was a beast to shoot them all. I got a necklace made as well that said Tina Sparkle. I didn't realize when I got it, like, look how tiny it is. You can barely see it. Stella came over. Stella did our makeup. I had crystals gelled into my hair. I had crystals all over my eyes. It was just such a fantasy, such a mood. I love to have the portraits in there. I know they're over the top, but what are you going to do? It's real. This is lots of Moulin Rouge beauty. These are more of the original. These are the Copic marker illustrations for the Showgirls. That was the Port Treasures. This was my breakdown for some of the things I wanted to teach on that live on the Lido deck for Strictly Ballroom. Lots of fashion figure stuff. More original sketches. This is part of Steve's Pinterest board that I printed. These were our Moulin Rouge portraits. These ones were kind of the hardest. I think Steve's looks really great. Mine was just, we were always trying to battle getting that black tulle photographed. I had like a double hat moment going on too. It was just the most. But I also originally had a red scarf that popped way too much. And that black tulle, we couldn't, originally my head was supposed to be wrapped in it, but it just didn't photograph well, so I just sat in it. That's not even why I'm saying it, because I think the photo does look really pretty. I actually wore this to the live lesson on Zoom, and 100% unironically turned the camera on, sitting at my desk in a veil of black tulle. And I just don't know if I've ever felt that amount of extra before, but it felt right. That's all I'm gonna say. That's all I'll leave it at. Good memory. Okay, this was the live lesson that we did for Live on the Lido deck for Moulin Rouge. See how that one turned out? Just so much nicer than the other one. It was so smudgy and blendy, and yeah, I was really happy with that. Very shocked as well. Just never works out that way. This was just a bunch, the background was a bit of a demo page from that love heart motif lesson I did for the backgrounding that we saw in the other journal. This, though, I didn't finish, but I thought it's great because it's supposed to be a background. I don't need to finish it. I'll just stick everything on top of it. So these were all just bits and pieces I collected. Lots of the word scramble, lots of the memory game photos, even some of my little demo pieces that I'd done. The original sketch for the Satine showgirl, her red number, but we made it a bit more showgirly. This, the other portraits Steve did for Moulin Rouge, I printed them on glossy photo paper, because and my favorite photo paper, matte photo paper, they don't do it anymore. The Chiltern Wove, I can't find it. So I had to use glossy. Also this glossy paper we just had. And it does a really good job, but it scratches up so easily, and you know I'm pretty rough, so they look a bit battered, but it's a journal, it'll be fine. Yeah, Steve's little Pinterest printouts, and that's what I was going to say. The whole layout is from Memory to Memento, my Tetris tiling technique. I love alliteration. This is a part of the C-Day content for the Great Gatsby. I illustrated a whole editorial. I used it as reference to draw. This is the logo for Virtual Voyage number 3 as well. The little helm logo. I translated it to make it look a lot more like Virtual Voyage number 3. 3. So using all the motifs and everything. This is a pen sketch. Like, this is actually pen. If you look really closely, you can see it took me ages to do. I really don't know if it paid off in the end, to be honest. Like, for as long as it took, I guess I was expecting more. No, it's good. I really like it. I put it in color in the end anyway. But it was fun. This is Steve as J. Gatsby. This is me as Daisy. I'm wearing a Daisy shirt, obviously. I'll have to pull that out again whenever we do Daisy. Maybe I'll cosplay as Daisy. We had the little tiara as well, the headband. Yeah, lots of nice dark smoky grey eyes. And my finger wave was on the wrong side. It still looks good, it's still a finger wave, but yeah, I was looking in the mirror, so I didn't realise that that was the side that the headband was supposed to be on. My bad. Anyway, this was an illustrated editorial, so I had this. Steve actually flipped it before. If you want to see the flip, he talks about it from a photography point of view. He even did that again for Virtual Voyage. He did a long-form video talking about his views on photography in the editorials that he has that are Baz Luhrmann related. But I illustrated the editorial, so it's from May 2013 with Carrie Mulligan. It's a Vogue editorial, and I was trying just different styles and techniques that we've been looking at. So this one wasn't my fave. I appreciate it more now, actually, than I did when I first did it. I'm just going to make sure that I'm in focus and I'm in... Yep, everything's good. Sorry about the ring light. It's just so you can have some good light, but I know the glossy picks it up. Yeah, I kind of appreciate that more in retrospect. This was the contour sketch version I did of one of the other photos. I actually had a version of this that I tried before on Instagram Live. Didn't get much better at it the second time. I get face panic. I get to the face with my contour, and especially if it's like a 3/4 or something, I panic, and then my pen just stays there and just leaks out all this black ink. So, you know, face panic or just a really severe contour. Shadow, you be the judge. But that was just trying that. Trying some more of those 20s style, the kind of Art Deco, lots of this flat shading kind of a look for this one. I thought that was effective. I didn't like the proportions on this. I think I wanted a smaller head and a longer neck, but it was interesting. I had a good time putting it together. These are just more bits and pieces from demos that are flying around and games. I liked this face map. I wanted to keep that just to reference it again. Sometimes when I'm demoing really quickly, I come up with ones that I really like and I think, oh, I'll use that again. There's one in here too. In this one. Is it this one or is it the first one? Oh, I don't know where it is. It's somewhere. It's probably in one of them. Anyway, I had another face map I really liked, so I kept that one and that one. This was the shadow part of the eyes lesson, the dazzling eyes lesson, more of my mannequins. I really liked this really simple version that I did, and this was a bit more of a fleshed out version from the illustrated editorial. Her hands disappeared to nowhere because I don't always need to draw the hands. The passport stamp for freedom. I actually think this is really pretty. It doesn't really look like Carey Mulligan, but I actually think it's really pretty. And these are a bit more finished. This was very 20s inspired, very Art Deco. And I thought I did a really good job on that one. I was very proud of myself. I think the background kind of didn't work as well as she works by herself. But I mean, it's not a problem. It's all about the learning. And I had a great time learning all of it. I even used rulers and everything for all of this. It was very put together, which is unlike me because in the same breath, I did all of this, this kind of art journal girl crazy collageness. So I put all this together. A lot of it was scrap papers too, and a photocopy of the magazine. This is a little bit of scrap paper from an Instagram live where I did Whimsy Ween. It was the Cheeto. She was holding a bag of Cheetos, the Chester the Cheeto, but as a Stepford wife. Like, I know where all these little bits come from, which is so wild to me. This is from Collage Club, this background. I cut it up, put it here. This was a concept stamping workshop that I had demoed pieces on. I hope I remember all of that in years to come. I should write it down, but I feel like it's probably unnecessary journaling. I've said it on video now. Actually, a video is a great way for me to go back and remember these things. I'll just watch this if I need to know. But yeah, sometimes I would write that down if I needed to. Because I've got a bit of a terrible memory sometimes, unless I'm arguing with someone, in which case it all comes back. Ask Steve. This is the little demo piece that I put together for the last live theme night. And just some quotes, my little stamp there again, putting my date down there. I love this one. It's a book with a ship on top of it. And the smokestack is a fountain pen. And there's like ink or water coming up from the pages. I just thought this was so, like I had the idea for it. I tried it so many times, I couldn't get it right. And then all of a sudden I got it and I thought, oh, that's it. That's what I wanted. All so that I could stamp it in here pretty poorly and write Feb 27th, 2021. So crazy to me when I put it all into perspective. That's why I always just say it's just washi tape. It's just stamps. Just so I don't take it too seriously. Yeah, this was our little demo piece, and then this was the piece I ended up doing in real life. Again, better in the actual demo. We looked at hands. We did a fun little technique to simplify some of the hands that involved breaking down like the palm, the knuckle line, and the fingers. It's just a way that I like to think about it sometimes when I'm struggling. But again, I don't usually draw hands, so it was a bit of a risk to even put this on into the lesson, I should say. But we also did that half-tone colouring. And there's a lot of other ideas. Where did I put them? There's a lot of other ideas I had for that. I need to find it, because I was going to tell everyone. Hang on. Have I moved? Oh yeah, here it is. Yeah, if you've done this, if you wanted to try it again, these are the other things that I had written down. One medium on the left and a different medium on the right. So like pencils on the left and then markers on the right. Invert the colors, so anywhere there's a red, it becomes a green. If there's a blue, it becomes an orange. Black and white versus color, so a black and white or sepia versus color. I did that with the Disneyland sketch. You could do it with Dorothy from The Wizard of Oz, that's really fun. Sketchy lines on one side versus clean lines on the other, because I sometimes like to point out how you lose a lot of the charm when you clean up the sketch too much. Two different characters, so like a split personality Jekyll Hyde thing. I thought of Glinda and Elphaba from Wicked. I thought that would be fun to try. left hand versus right hand. So draw this with your left hand, draw this with your right hand. That one's fun. I haven't done it, but I think it'd be fun. Shade mixes or tints of one side. Yeah, those colors. I think we did that here. I think we added the Kyanite Genuine to everything on this side. Blind contour versus looking contour. That one's fun. A looking contour versus assisted contour. If you know what I mean by assisted, you know what I mean. Yeah, so this one you could color the face or color the body, and this one you could color the background. So those were all of my split tone or my split illustration ideas that I had after the fact. I know we shared some of them while we were doing it, but just in case you were looking for more, write those down or screenshot those, because those would be really fun. I haven't tried nearly any of them. I'd love to see how they work out for you. Anyway, next we have, this is the last journal, so it's completely changed days now. We're in a different day. The light's different, everything's different. I'm the same though. Wrapping up VV3, great, can't read. We did a very last lesson on the debarkation day. So we finished all our ports of inspiration. We were just putting our passport stamps in our journals and going for our debarkation day, which is just like a big debrief live. Sometimes we play together. I usually flip all my journals, so there is a full flip of everything that these looked like when we were finished the course, because I have since finished them by putting in all my little bits and pieces. They don't look this finished when I'm finished. I actually took the time afterwards to put a lot of this together, mostly for myself. I like to have them, you know, in a relative state of finish, just so that I can show you know, what the course was about if anyone should ask, and so I can have videos like this so people can see what we get up to. But yeah, some of them, the Burtonville one I'm still working on. If there's like open spaces, and you know, I don't really see myself returning to a lot of this Baz Luhrmann inspiration specifically, so I wanted to finish this, but I always kind of revisit Tim Burton, so I can easily whack that journal out and just start working in there and working in that blank space. But as it is, the other ones, there's only a few empty spots in those two. So they're all pretty much finished. But the debarkation day, we did a lesson for the Chanel No. 5 ad that Baz Luhrmann shot, which is just one of my all-time favorite things ever, with Nicole Kidman. Steve and I quote it all the time. So we did a lesson from that. It was actually kind of challenging, but again, brought in a lot of the lessons that we learned, especially with the fashion form. And I got a chance to do one of my favorite dry brush calligraphy ink fashion illustration techniques. We look at this in whimsical illustration too, so I did pull a lot of my whimsical illustration knowledge into this course, which was fun to revisit and look back at. It, you know, still stands, so that's good to know. But yeah, it was fun to look at that and to go through it live. It's one of those things, but like when I put up whimsical illustration, I never anticipated doing live online classes. I've done it in person, and that's a different beast as well, because you can actually get in front of someone and like quickly show something. And individualize help, but live it can be a bit of a different experience. So I didn't know if you know, it never crossed my mind what it'd be like to teach any of those things live, but yeah, we did it and we had a great time, and it was really fun to figure out together. That's a part of the thing as well. Like a lot of the lessons that we do live can sometimes go wrong, and it's not necessarily a bad thing. I see it as an opportunity to problem solve together. And to actually show you the thought process that happens when, you know, it doesn't go the way we expect, because that happens for me all the time. You know, it's lucky when I'm doing lessons that I'm super prepared and that I know what my next step is, but that doesn't always happen when I'm just sitting at my table. So it's good, I think, to sometimes extend ourselves and stretch ourselves to test the limits of our knowledge. That happens a lot to me when we're live. But it's also a really beneficial experience. This is the version that Steve did. I wanted to point it out. Steve not only did this in one go, like he hadn't even practiced it, but Steve also didn't watch the demo for this. I dictated to him. He had seen me in passing do these ones, because Steve moderates the chat and the live theme night. He's like the host. He's our cruise director, entertainment director. So we, yeah, he was kind of watching, but then I had to dictate it to him. Everyone was saying that he should get on there and do it, and I thought it'd be fun for him to do it. And he did a really good job. I was really, really surprised. And not that I didn't think he couldn't, but it was the fact that he didn't have anyone demoing it for him. He was literally just going off me saying, you know, this shape for the head, this shape for the body. Remember this side comes down this side, dry brush over here. Yeah, I thought he did a really good job. These were just a bunch of ink pen tests that went wrong, so I covered it up with this. These are more of my Can dances. This one's Dorothy. This one's Cinderella. This one's Ariel. And we've had a look at this. These are the Cruise Muse photos. So Steve gave me his Cruise Muse photos, and then also the inspiration pictures he had, like his little mood board that he had for the shoot, because Steve works with lots of inspirational pictures as well. There's one for Fran. I had little write-ups. And this is another one of his little inspiration collages that he had at the shoot, just for lighting, so that he can test different lighting effects. And sometimes the mood he's going for is really dependent on the lighting, especially with these. Like, he really wanted a like a bit more moody for Satine, you know, in a way that this was really bright and lit, the close-up ones. And that was mainly my choice as well. I wanted to make sure that we had a face that showed the shadows that I wanted to draw. So even that, like, the collaboration between Steve and I was really interesting, because I would say, like, I need the shadow under the chin to look like the shadow I'm going to teach that I draw all the time. So yeah, it was really interesting to play around with lighting. I've never really known until the past year just how much lighting affects imagery. And not only from what I've learned from Steve's photography, I've also applied to my drawings as well, even portrait lighting, and how different parts of the face are highlighted and accented. Like, I think about that now when I'm shading my faces as well. So I think you can always learn a lot from interdisciplinary creative arts. That's why I like to have people like Stella doing our makeup, so I can learn from what she's doing, how she's applying colors, the shapes that she's applying to my face to reconstruct it. Steve, what he's doing with the lighting and how he's posing someone to make them look, you know, a different version of themselves. I love that fantasy. And then I get to draw it. More originals from my Satine Showgirls, and this was just a bunch of sketches I did after everything was finished. I had one last page and I decided to wrap it all up. This was March 15th when I finished, and just a few more sketches that I just decided to do with stuff that was hanging out at the table. And that is it for this journal flip. Wow, my voice is almost gone. I can literally feel the pain in my throat. I hope this video turned out well. I know we went on a few different tangents there, but I mean, is that a shock to anyone? It might be shocking if you're new, but very standard behavior over here at JLB Creative. Thank you so much for sitting through that. Thank you so much for being a part of Virtual Voyage 3 if you were. Thank you so much for cheering us on from the sidelines if you were watching on social media and encouraging us through and you weren't participating, or even if you were just joining us today and watching. I want to thank you for being here and for sitting through that entire video. I hope you gleaned something from that. It's not really what I set out to do, but I hope that happened for you if that's what you wanted. If not, I hope we just had a good time hanging out with each other and finding mutual you know, enjoyment in journaling and talking about it. I'm going to pop these away. I might have to do a music only flip as well, so I might do that and upload that first. But I'm going to pop these away. I'll probably bind them sometime when I get confident with that, and leave these as a reminder for Virtual Voyage 3 as I get ready for Virtual Voyage number 4. I haven't released any information about that just yet. It is still currently, what day is it? It is March, obviously. It's March 2021. We're planning on having it in a few months' time towards the summer. And I'm really excited. I've got all the themes, I've got lots of the lessons, I've got pretty much everything mapped out perfectly in my brain. It will, of course, change as we go along if I know anything about my process, but I am very excited to have you there as well. Don't forget to sign up for Merry Mix Media on Teachable, or just join one of the courses if there's something you've been fancying to do, so that you can receive those coupons and be a part of everything. Even if you join Collage Club, that is also a way. Although, I mean, Merry Mix Media is free. If you're looking for a free way to get the coupon, I'm speaking to me as if I'm the consumer. James, this is how you get the free coupon. But yeah, no, if you are looking to get the free coupon, join Merry Mix Media. If you are looking for other things to join, I have playtest Patreon bundles up there. We have 3 full virtual voyages. They're still open. They're just no longer run the live components, but there are replays for everything in there. So if you're interested in learning a lot of what you saw in here, you will find that all in Virtual Voyage 3. We have a Halloween one, which was inspired by Tim Burton, called Burtonville, from Virtual Voyage number 2, and then our inaugural sailing was Virtual Voyage number 1 last summer. And yeah, we're really excited to come up on a year and do it all over again. So I will see you very soon. Have a wonderful day. Stay safe. Have a happy time journaling. And until next time, goodbye.